Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon from Sweden, and welcome to this week's live stream. I'm so excited to be live with you guys again, and we're in for a really thought provoking session. So, we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to tune in. I know we have a lot of people joining us today. And during this time, fire away in the comment section. Since we can see you guys, we really want to see how many of you guys are there. So just show up your energy, show us you're excited, and we'll dig into this session. So I'm so thrilled to be welcoming all the way from London the brilliant inclusion and belonging specialist Joanne Lockwood, CEO and founder of See Change Happened. Welcome to the live, Joanne.
Hey, thank you so much for inviting me in. I love that title sequence. It's like I'm on some sort of Hollywood production. It's amazing. I couldn't stop dancing. I was really warming up there. Brilliant.
Yeah, it gives the energy, it gets the energy going. I really enjoy having the intro too. And we have a lot of people coming in. Like, wow, I see you guys. Hey there, Theodore. Hey there, Amanda. Hey there, Artie. Welcome. We want to do this together with you. I just want to remind you that this is really your moment to ask all your questions for Joanne. So take this opportunity, send them in the comment section, and we'll finish off this session by bringing them up and discussing around them. So, for everyone attending, comment summary to get your hands on all the key takeaways. So if you don't want to miss out, if you don't have the time to be with us the full session, 30 minutes, just comment summary in the comment section and we'll get back to you with all the key takeaways. So, Joanne, should we just pretend I know nothing about you? I don't know who you are, I don't know your story, and I definitely don't know how you're impacting TA.
Well, let me wind back time and give you that sort of history. So
Yeah.
I'm start at the end. I'm 56 years old. I identify as a trans woman, but I lived a very different life for most of my life. I left school at 16, joined the Royal Air Force in the UK as an electronics engineer, fixing aeroplanes, radar, radio. Decided that wasn't for me, got into computing. And then for 25 odd years of my life, I ran IT companies, supporting people's network servers, email systems, until about 4.5, 5 years ago, where I got to my mid to late 40s. And I realized that my life wasn't really on track. I'd been fighting with my own sense of self, my own identity, felt all of the life I can remember. I think I got to late 40s. I think whether it's that midlife crisis or whatever it may be, but that I just felt necessary to make a huge change. So I sold my IT company, didn't make a fortune. So I sold my IT company and gender transitioned at the same time. So beginning of 2017, there's me on the mat going, who am I? I've been an IT professional in my life. I'd employed people. I built a network of people around the UK and around the world. And almost like I pushed that all over the cliff and just said, right, I'm going to start again. So 2017, I had this brainwave that I was going to promote trans awareness and trans inclusion. And what I learned very quickly was it wasn't just about me. It's about other people, about everybody in society having the opportunity to thrive and be accepted, find accessible and open processes in TA, in employment, in my experience engaging in the world of work. And I learned as a minority, because I've gone from a privileged majority to a less privileged minority. And I learned when engaging in the recruitment process, because I was looking for work when I sold my business while I was trying to get my consultancy working. And I realized how difficult it was as a trans woman to find employment. And I'd spoken to TA professionals, agency, recruiters, who openly admitted that I was a difficult candidate to place. My field of opportunities was limited. They were honest enough to tell me that of all the clients they had in their books, all the open recs they had, that there was only one or two that they felt comfortable putting me forward to. Whether that was their bias as a TA professional, or whether it's their perceived bias of the client or the reality, we can debate. So I learned very quickly that I felt that that was kind of something I wanted to take my lived experience, what I've learned about my own situation, the discrimination, the denial of opportunity, and take that forward into my passion. So I moved from being a trans awareness specialist into, I call it, an inclusion and belonging specialist. And I do talk to people around talent acquisition, talk about the pipeline, the funnel, making it accessible, the employer branding, the recruitment marketing, all the stuff we do, down to the JDs and the spec, about trying to put a different light and shine a different torch on that, so that I stand a chance. If I stand a chance, other people stand a chance. So it's not about me. It's about creating this equitable world where everyone can thrive, because I am everyone. It's not about me, just not about me. It's about everyone, and then I become part of that bigger group. So that's where my passion was, and I got lucky. I bumped into some interesting professionals at various events when I was networking and building my network like crazy 4 years ago. I got involved with people like In-House Recruitment, RecFest, some of the other major organisations of the firm, other places in the UK. And suddenly I was on a global stage speaking across Europe, then with smart recruiters in San Francisco, in Amsterdam, and I even spoke in Melbourne, Australia, with the RecFest down there in 2019, of it was. So I've spoken all over the world, and more laterally, when we talk about online, I've been engaging in this kind of activity as well. So speaking to far more people, and it all stems from this passion that I have around fairness, equity for all, and I try and bring with it my candidate experience and background, and my employee experience. So I don't come as a recruiter. I don't come as an HR professional. I come from calling out the BS, if you like, as a candidate, as an employee.
Yeah.
So that's me in a nutshell, or a big coconut shell.
Wow, and Johan, this is like right on. I've been following your work. This is how I've noticed you, and I've been dreaming of having you on the show since. I think it's a cautious, like a choice made, instead of looking at unconscious bias, make the mental shift and be conscious inclusive. Like that kind of shift really hit the fan for me. That was how I discovered you, and I was like, this is a mental shift we need to build in our TA funnel. Yes. It's where it happens. It doesn't matter if we bring in the best candidates to the hiring managers, and it's two guys or whatever that it usually is, and they do the best choice. It starts with us in TA. We need to lay out the foundation, the groundwork to make conscious inclusion a reality. And that's kind of how we're going to get down to topic today. So I'm just we have a lot of energy in the comment section. I reckon I see you guys. It's so important to have you with us. Remember to ask your questions as we go. So for this thought-provoking session, Johan, is hiring for diversity hiring for the second best? Should we just start there?
It's not, but that's the belief. And I'm not saying that everybody believes that, but I see it so often. And I'm going to call out the bullshit of meritocracy. I know we're going to come on to that in a minute, but we see often that the pervasive monoculture in organizations, and I'm not here to demonize white men. I'm not here to demonize white men at all, because I tried that. I was one for many years, so I know what it's like to be in that bracket, and I'm not here to exclude people while trying to be inclusive for others. But we often find that the monoculture, that the culture of organizations still favors men, still favors white men. And we look at the challenge that people who come from minority backgrounds, who are marginalized, excluded, women are not a minority, but we still see women as being a minority group because they are in many organizations. And there's this association that the default is best. Maleness, straightness, whiteness, all these various attributes we've been brainwashed to believe are better. I mean, you look at the news, I'm sure it's the same where you are in Sweden. we're seeing all of these pictures from Afghanistan. We're seeing all these pictures from China, all these pictures from the Middle East. We see all these pictures from the Trump era in the US. It's almost overpopulated exclusively with men. And what we don't see is enough representation of difference. And we know that diversity brings that multiple perspectives, multiple opinions. It avoids blind spots. So what I challenge people and talk about is reframe. Don't see someone as a diversity hire. Don't look for diversity, because then we're into this competition saying, well, if it wasn't for this target, we'd hire a white man. So people always see and frame diversity as being the second choice. If all things are equal, we have to hire the black woman. And then the white man feels left out. So I think we've got to reframe this. We've got to look at trying to create representation, create voices.
Yeah.
Recognize that this lived experience that I can bring, that other people can bring, is as valid as time served, as past performance. You know, we talk about past performance being an indicator of future performance, but we know that's bullshit as well. We know that your past performance gets you through the interview, and it's your first 3 months. So if you're hiring for capability, hiring for potential, we know we can train skills, but you've got to find the attitude, the hunger, the desire, the passion, the values those people have.
Yeah, and you're going to look at the right attributes. So what is like attributes for potential? Like break that down from starters.
Yeah. I mean, I applied recently for a non-exec director role or trustee role for an organisation, and I got the standard there were better candidates for the job. And they said that the other candidates had more experience in this area. And I went back to the JD. I went, you didn't mention that was a requirement. So what you've done is you've graded me on a requirement you haven't told me about. So if you'd have told me that was really, really important to you, I may not have applied, because I thought, well, that wouldn't be me. So again, when we look at JDs, have we got a secret agenda? Have we got a secret set?
You mean job description, just for
JD job description? Yeah. So are we keeping this hidden set of values that we're looking for? If they're essential, put them dead center. I can then craft my CV. I can craft my covering letter. I can give you that experience. I'm not here to guess what you're looking for. And as recruiters, you go, wow, you know, we want to see what you're made of. We want you to see what you come up with. That's great. But I get exhausted as a minority candidate applying for roles where I feel the cards are stacked against me. And then what it comes down to is other people were better for the role because they had prior experience in an area when I thought the playing field was level, that I could bring new thinking to that area rather than having to have that old thinking. So that's why I sometimes think with this hiring for diversity is second best. I've become a risk.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's happening right under our noses. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So I mean, so for me, like building smart TA setups, I'd say there's an easy way to work with attributes and behaviors instead of what we think we're looking for. Just copy paste of like Tristan, our old receptionist. So, you know, there's tools out there to make this a reality. Just saying, it's not new or gigantic to change. There's tools out there to help you. If we move along to like how we value difference, like what are your reflections into this?
I think some people are scared of difference. I mean, how often do we hear the debate around culture fit? And then we throw in values fit. And then the old phrase that we hear that you're hired because you're different, but then you're fired because you're not the same. You know, we hear this kind of mantras all the time where we think we want difference, we think we want there's other opinions, and then suddenly you find you're a little bit awkward, you don't align, you're an outlier, and there's no way that the culture can absorb you as an outlier unless you want to go to the pub on a Friday, have a drink, socialise, do all the things that everybody else does,
have a barbecue,
work late, fit in with the boys. Then often that can be some of the frustration. So I think what we've got to be careful of here is we want difference. We want that. We want to avoid blind spots. We want to have all the power of different thoughts. But when those thoughts conflict, the pervasive culture wins. And I was talking to some people the other day in the recruitment space around this return to the office. You know, most of us have been working remotely from anywhere, from home, whatever we want to call it, for the past 18 months, 20 months.
Yeah.
And people are now saying that it's destroying office culture. Destroying office culture. And I say, why do I need to come to the office to have culture? Is that for my benefit or for your benefit? I think you've got to reframe culture as something that keeps an employer sticky and attractive to me. But if I don't have to commute, if I can work from home, if I can work remotely, I could build my own culture. I could build my own family. I could build my own involvement with my community. I don't need work to give me a culture. I want work to give me work and pay me. And then what happens then is it's hard for organizations to foster loyalty. So we've got to somehow reinvent this world of work where we're not trying to ignore culture fit and then claim we want culture. What are we saying here? We want culture, or we're hiring for culture. If we're not hiring for culture, how do we get so I see this kind of dichotomy of
but like reaching the like cultural enrichment. How is this playing in a digital hybrid matter?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not against the concept, but what I don't want to happen, or I don't like to see happen, is the only answer is working in an office. You know, here's the question. The answer is working in an office. Here's the challenge. The answer is working in an office. So what we need to do is working in the office is one of many solutions. And people are now saying when they're going back to the office, it's not the same as it was. Because some people are hybrid, some people are agile, some people are not coming in every day. So when you go to the office, it's kind of empty, it's kind of cultureless. So this halfway house isn't necessarily benefiting anybody. So I think what employers, to avoid this great resignation, we keep talking about the 2021 great resignation, the great moving on. What we need to do is we need to think about how we engage our people better. And that's been very much more person-centric. Do we need to demand people come to the office? What is the output? What is the purpose? If people need to come in for team building, for culture days, for keep in touch days, that's fantastic. But don't just wheel everybody in on a 2-hour commute and a £100 train fare to sit them in the office for 20 minutes and go, oh, that wasn't that great. And people go away thinking, that was a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. And I think that's what we've got to look at. And I do get it. I get it. If you're a sales professional, you like to listen to the other calls. You like to listen to the buzz. You like to get objection handling going on. So I know that salespeople very much want to be in a buzzy environment. But there's things like the metaverse, you know, so it's one of these new buzzwords where you have virtual reality. You can put a headset on and feel the noise of other people around you. So maybe the technology isn't there yet. But as we were talking to each other in the green room, the younger generation, the Twitch generation, the streaming generation, they exist. The Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, they exist in this world. And we, as maybe oldies, are looking at them strange. Say, you need to go out and get some air. You need to go and visit and meet people. But they don't. They're completely productive in this world on their own.
Yeah, and they're building culture. Like they're online making relationships. They don't even meet each other. They're like so social. But I know like a TA department would be like having being scared of losing out or not, as you mentioned, building the culture. But you're saying that building culture isn't what everyone is looking for when they choose their employer. Like getting.
I think we have to remember that work is work. We like to create this concept of family at work, but really, it's not for everyone. Work isn't your family. The family doesn't fire you. Family doesn't exclude you. Family doesn't take your project away or whatever. It will reorganize. Work is work. And I think what we've done over the last 20 or 30, maybe 40, 50 years is believe that we have to have a family at work. And I'm not saying it's been a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all, because I know we need to socialize. Yeah. Okay. But I want to socialize with my friends. And they don't have to be my work friends. They can be, but they don't have to be. I want to socialize with my neighbors, with my community, in my local pub or whatever it may be. So I think many people are getting smarter about this, the last 20 months. They've realized that this bullshit of culture, that we've been sold for years, they can actually replace. They can have more time with their children. They can have more time with their family.
Yeah.
And they can start using that time in a more productive way than being a slave to the commute. And I think that's the evolution we're going to see over the next 4, 5, 6, 10 years, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And the world of work in 2030 is going to be hugely different as the world of work was in 2011.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna see loads of different hybrid in everything. Like everything is hybrid. We have Jim DeMacchio here saying maybe your family doesn't. That's funny. Okay, so like inventory your pitfalls in the approach you do, like coming back to hiring for second best, which is not the outcome of this. How would you say, like if you're a TA department, like before we go into questions, what do you need to like check yourself with? Like this is an ongoing strategy, but recognize the patterns.
Yeah, I always say when I'm talking to organizations, is it's a cliche, but you've got to start with why.
Yeah.
Why does it fundamentally matter to you as a person and you as an organization? Why does it matter? And you say to yourself, well, it's the right thing to do. Fantastic. That's a good starting point. It's the right thing to do, the moral argument. But let's explore the business argument. And I'm not saying we should justify everything with a business case, but there has to be, to make it seem sustainable, there has to be a business outcome. So we understand that diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, representation of our organization, our customers, having all these things are really, really important. So that's the why. And then we need to then start exploring the how, the when, the who, etc. after that. But too often people just go straight in for, let's do a hiring campaign, let's go to market. And then we're not sure what the objectives are.
Yeah.
And I believe it's also critically important to have data. Really, really important to understand what you're looking for. So what's your target? What are you trying to achieve? So you can quantify that. And then you can start looking at top of funnel. You can then start looking at who's in the funnel, look at the steps in the recruitment process, look at who's in, who's out, where they're dropping out.
Yep.
And put those checkpoints in there to saying, do we need to course correct? Is our recruitment marketing working? Are we attracting the right candidates?
Correct.
Because if we're trying to be unbiased and remove and mitigate as much bias as we can, then we're anonymizing, we're removing names, we're removing qualification, we're keeping it really simple using objective questions.
Yeah.
Therefore, we don't know who's in the funnel. So we don't know if we're trying to hire more women, if we're trying to hire more people who are non-white, we don't know who those candidates are because we're anonymized. So how can we track that? So we need to have that demographic data held somehow so we can look at it and go, well, actually, we've got 50 applicants and our ethnicity mix, our gender mix is looking good. Yeah. So we just keep filling it. We're on the right track. But if we look at it and go, well, we're mainly male, we need to change that ratio to 70-30 the other way. Then we need to think about how we're going to target. And only through using that data and metrics and tracking through first phase, through second phase, through the first interview, the SNIFT, whatever it may be, then we can look at the end. But I know people are still nervous. They're nervous about not having a CV. I see people twitch.
Yeah, standard. Yeah.
How can I possibly hire someone without a CV? Well, you go through the process objectively, ask the questions, look at the values. If you want to do a personality profile, if you want to do all that, then fine, then great, then do that. But at the end of the day, the challenge you have is you've got to meet people. You get all the way through the process, and someone sits in front of you and go, you're not kind of the candidate I was expecting. And you've got to go, fantastic, and embrace whoever comes out the funnel.
Definitely.
But conversely, you've also got to be honest with yourself and say, none of the above. Nobody really ticked our objective. We were looking for somebody who brought different perspectives, had different lived experience. We wanted some compassion. We wanted some empathy. We wanted some lived experience that could bring another dimension to our customer service, our product design that we don't already have. And it might be you say, actually, we've got skills, we've got past performance, we've got all this experience, but we didn't capture that nugget that we were looking for. So maybe we have to go back to market. But that then needs the whole business to be aligned. And this is the other challenge we face. Pressures to fill the rec, to get the empty seat filled, pressures to open a new office, pressures to get people in, cost per hire, hiring velocity, all these metrics were judged on. And the hiring teams are often KPI'd or OKR'd based on these old rules. So we have to start valuing different metrics. Otherwise, we keep rewarding bad behavior, and that's where no change occurs. And maybe I talk about it in football. If a team's not winning, you change the manager, and suddenly you get a change of form. If your hiring isn't working, if you're not getting the demographics, then you've got to start changing things. Because if you keep using the same team, you're going to get the same results. Either you re-educate the people who are doing the work now, or you bring another perspective into that team. And that's another way you can do it. You can involve more people in your organization, get different views outside of your department to review candidates, get that other perspective.
And recognize where human interactions make the most difference and the most right with most helpful insights, and recognize where tech actually helps you make a difference. So
completely,
it's about knowing where to spend your time in the funnel and where to not. Actually, that's a thinker.
We don't. I mean, I'd love. Well, I don't think the future is an AI inhuman process. For certain roles, for other roles, maybe it is. If you're looking for somebody who is going to do a very routine automated job, you say, can they do it? Have they got the availability? Do I need to meet them? No, I don't need to meet them. But we look at how we place temps for using contingent or temp resources. Often we don't really interview them. We often don't spend a lot of time. We just go, say to a placement agency, can I have someone tomorrow? And they send somebody along and they start working. But suddenly when we feel that we've got to love an employee with more care. So, but we already make this decision with contractors, temps, even some suppliers.
Yeah, I see you. I'm just talking about the general, where you should have different processes for different categories, definitely. But there's also ways to help yourself make the most, least wrong decisions. We need to jump in some questions because time is really running out of us. So let's start with the first one. I will read it to you so you can see too, Joanne. This is Anahita from the Talent Company. She's the people associate there. She has a lot of questions, but the first one is, I would be curious to hear about Joanne's thoughts of cognitive diversity and its connection to innovation. We tend to recruit those who think alike, which puts us in a status quo when the perspectives aren't broadened, despite sometimes different appearances. So what does Joanne see as important tools to bring with her in the process to enable and emphasize different types of diversity?
I completely agree. We've got to think about the multiple dimensions of diversity. Your inherent diversity, how you're born, your sex, your gender, your ethnicity, etc., which is immutable and unchangeable. Then the acquired diversity through your education, your life, your lived experience, and then you've got your cognitive, diversity of thinking. Do you see patterns in clouds? Are you artistic? Are you logical, neurodiverse, whatever it may be? So I think we're too often focusing our diversity initiatives on how people look. You look like a man, you look like a white person, you look like a black person. And yes, I appreciate that visual representation is very important. Very important to have representation of people of color, of gender. But we've got to be careful we don't end up assimilating a black man and a white man with identical qualifications from identical backgrounds. So we do need to think about cognitive diversity. But let's not forget the power of visible representation as well. Because,
as a starter, at least. I mean, that's a starter. Then labels can harm us, but somewhat we need to start and make it's like equality for everyone.
Yeah, because it's as well as the cognitive diversity, we've also got the inherent. So your ethnicity, your background, as well as your lived experience can be very similar. But if one person's black, one person's white, you're going to have that cultural enrichment and a different perspective. You're going to understand about discrimination. You're going to understand how your community thinks, etc. So we've got to think about those multiple dimensions, not just cognitive, not just visible, but also considering the lived experience and the inherent and the cognitive together to think about diversity. So I think it is important to look for different thinking styles as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like wrecking yourself first, definitely. Thank you, Anahita, for the great question. We're moving on to Lina Norén. She's a talent partner at the North Alliance. And here is her question. I've listened to Joanne lecture before, and I can really confirm that you have found a real star for the live. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. So the question, how can we prevent gender coding in ad languages when most ads are written in English, but for non-native English speaking audience? I myself have studied the connection between language and gender perception, and I'm really curious about Joanne's thoughts. Wow, great question.
Yeah, gender coding, privilege coding, white, male, straight. There's a lot of lenses that are the default, and it's really hard sometimes to put a different lens on things.
Yeah.
My suggestion is always, can you find yourself an external focus group? Can you find people maybe in your target audience, or maybe other groups that you could set up? Maybe you could set up a group and share it with other organizations where you can ask the question, does this role appeal to you? What is it in this role that turns you off? What is it turns you on? So I think, and if you've got a large enough organization, maybe you can go to your ERGs, your staff networks, and ask your gender group, your pride group, your ethnicity group, or your disability group, how does this read through your lens?
Yeah.
So I think, again, diversity of thought, getting more and more perspectives and not necessarily relying on one or two people.
Yeah, be conscious around it. And like if you were to use or talk to your passive audience on social media, you can actually ask them how they would like to be approached. Like that's the way we can, like that's how transparent we can be with our audience. So there's a lot of tools out there to make this a reality. But it's a great.
And again, we've got to avoid white-splaining and mansplaining and straight-splaining, because what we end up doing is a man makes an assumption on what is attractive to a woman. And we assume, it's got to have childcare, it's got to have this, it's got to have that. And that's mansplaining. We've got to actually get people in our target community to really understand and tell us what they think. If you're looking to create accessible solutions, you ask a person who's a wheelchair user, is this accessible? Don't assume for them. So I think, involving these focus groups, really, really important.
Definitely. Thank you, Lena, for that great question. And Anahita, she has a lot of good ones. Let's do another one. She says, furthermore, I wonder if Joanne could consider mentioning 1 to 3 key metrics that can be used for talent that can indicate progress in diversity. So again, being data-driven.
Yeah, well, there's the front door, there's the living room, and then there's the back door. If we think about those 3 areas. So how are we hiring? Who are we hiring? In the living room, the experience of the people in the organization, promotion, opportunity, pay, review, all of these kind of metrics that we can analyze about people's experience when in an organization. And then we need to look at who's leaving, who's not hanging around, why are people leaving, and doing the exit interview. And I'm not a big fan of exit interviews, because often we've got it wrong by that stage when people are leaving. But understand who is arriving. Oh, you're back. Who's arriving? Their experience when they're in situ, their opportunities, are they rising? Is there a way to go? And then their experience about why they're moving on. And it may be simple reasons that they're moving, that their life's changed and it's no longer suitable. But sometimes you'll get that view. So I think if you ask for 3 key metrics, who's arriving, what happens when they stay, and what happens when they leave, the kind of key things. But I want to know that as a diversity hire, that I have opportunity. I don't want to come in and be stuck. I want to know that I can rise. I want to know that the opportunities internal are there for me. So that's a key metric for me.
Definitely. Great one. We have a lot of questions. Let's go into Jim Duacchio. He mentioned CV or resume is a horrible tool. One of the biggest issues with a resume and the process is it's designed to exclude very few TA organizations. And I mean, very few take the perspective of looking to include, again, the conscious part of this and exclude candidates. Point made, like really.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I see these debates on LinkedIn or Facebook groups around HR and TA professionals about the CV and about the cover letter. And I've seen TA professionals proud of the fact they don't read the cover letter. You're proud of the fact you don't read the cover letter. How can I tell you about me unless I can narrate it. The CV, you want bullet, 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 fact, fact, fact. But now I want to give you a piece of me, my value add, my lived experience, my sales performer, if you like. So I would like to see more cover letter, less CV.
Yeah, but then again, cover letter won't discuss your potential in any way. It's about how great you are explaining.
But I can talk about that. I can talk about that in my cover letter. Yeah. So if you, when you're putting out your recruitment marketing, say submit a cover letter as to why, how you're going to bring to this, what your ideas are, and then I can bring that out. I know that's what you're going to look for. The CV is kind of like a by the way. You want to know who I've worked for in the past, but really that's a historic, archaic document. I want to be able to narrate who I am, and you can use that using tools like Applied, where you set up the objective questions. You can ask me those questions.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know about these tools and are not great in copywriting. So it's also like a exclude process, if you may like it could be. I understand your part of this, but it could also exclude the I would also be super judgmental now saying a programmer, but you see my point. So I think we should like in any way we can work with attributes and behaviors and potential as like early as possible in the TA funnel.
And also, I think we also need to recognize, I've seen products such as Resumo that allow people to submit their application using different media, either voice, video, whatever it may be. And what we've got to understand is that not everybody wants to engage in the hiring process in the same way. So can we offer a different way? So I can submit, I can give you a TikTok, I can give you a quick YouTube, or I can give you a quick voicemail. So allowing me to engage with you the best way I feel comfortable, you're going to get the best out of me.
Yes. Yeah, that one I totally agree in. Let's finish off super quickly with the last question from Anita. If she had sent advice to a talent team on a growth journey, what would that be?
What do you think we mean by growth journey? Growth journey for the team, for the person, or for the organization?
Let's do the organization.
On a growth journey. If we're thinking about this specifically around building a more equitable pipeline process for onboarding talent, I think the first bit of advice would be to identify it, put it on the table and say, we want to do this. Again, coming back to the why question, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to grow? Why do we want to become a more diverse, a more inclusive, change our culture? So it's the why question at the beginning, always the why question to start with. Then once you understand why you want to change gender parity in the next 5 years, you want to make a real difference in it, then you can make targets and you can make specific areas. You want to create ethnic diversity by such and such, by this period. You can then have that as a target.
Put numbers.
With the data, with the metrics, then you can have that feedback loop and course correct and refocus and retry. So I think if you're looking to grow in terms of your culture and your diversity and your inclusion and belongingness of an organization, look at the data, look at the engagement surveys, look at the candidate experience. Are you asking your candidates what they thought of the process? Are you asking employees? And I'm not talking about necessarily just this bland survey you send out once a month. Sit down and talk to people. Actually get people's lived experience and understand who they are. And I know GDPR is different countries, but unless you truly understand who says, how can you possibly make change? If you know that 85% of people are happy and 15% of people are sad, how do you know who those 15% are unless you have the demographic behind it? So somehow you need to understand who says, then you can engage with them, then you can make change. So I think that's what I would say. It's a mixture of data, identifying the why, setting some goals, tracking with the data, with the metrics, course correcting, and keeping on it.
Yeah. Consistency, definitely. And thank you guys for all the great questions. We really enjoyed your curiosity in this matter. So time is definitely ticking, Joanne. If we were to finish off this wonderful session with like your two most important key takeaways, like if we would give people our most important insights from this, what would those be?
I think I said it several times, the why. Woke is sometimes seen as a dirty word these days. Become awake to the need for change, become awakened to the needs of others, become awakened to the fact that your organization is going to be strengthened through more diverse thinking. Be prepared to challenge yourself and be challenged by others as to why you think something. So by doing that, you will hopefully catch biases, mitigate, but only by having diversity of thought in that as well. So asking people who from different areas to challenge your thinking. Almost, I would say the other way I've seen people do this is spend more time questioning the rejections than you do the acceptances. So why did we reject this person? And really understand why you're rejecting somebody. And that could be very insightful if you have to explain.
Yeah.
And then that gut feel, that bias, that prejudice, that blind spot comes out as you're talking. So I think that was probably more than 2 things of advice, but yeah.
But a
Why
really great one.
and focus.
Like, yeah, and challenge your hiring managers in the last tips you made there. Like really go into detail and challenge where were the biases necessary in this process. Yeah, that's brain food. That's brain food. So, and this has been a lovely session. I've learned so much. I know people have gotten great takeaways, and we'll make sure everyone who comments summary will get all of them, because this is a lot of insight packed in one full session. I'm so thankful you went with us on the show, Joanne. I'm a huge fan. I mean, I learned so much, and I look forward and following you continuously. And I ask people in my network, follow Joanne on LinkedIn. She will like brain food everything around inclusion and diversity. So give her a follow, and a big warm thank you, and see you guys in the next live stream. I love that. Take care, guys. Bye bye.